Hello and Namaskar. Welcome to the Kalakura Arts Festival. The session is brought to you by Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. Today we have a very interesting lineup, which means that we have a conversation about where dance was, is, and can go in India with none other than Mr. Ashley Lobo. And this is going to be followed by a jazz funk workshop by the DanceWorks Performing Arts Academy. So viewers, do join in for the workshop, do tune in for this conversation, and as far as our tech etiquette goes, while we have the conversation, you are absolutely free to type in your questions, to type in your comments, and we will be happy to get them answered if time permits by Mr. Ashley Lobo. So before we start this conversation about where dance was, is, and can go in India, I'm Anuna Guha, and I will first take this opportunity to introduce Ashley Lobo to you, who doesn't know Ashley Lobo. But I must, of course, do the formal introductions. Ashley Lobo is considered to be a spearhead of international dance in India. He is the founder and artistic director of the DanceWorks Academy and Navdhara India Dance Theatre. His career in performing arts comprises of over 32 years of performing, choreographing, and teaching both in India and internationally. He trained in Sydney, Australia at the Bodenweiser Dance Centre. Ashley has developed Prana Paint, a unique sensitizing approach that explores movement through yoga, breath, connectivity, and touch. This unique technique has put him on the international map and has led to him being invited overseas to conduct workshops and, of course, to choreograph. The latest being his full-length works with Ballet Chemnitz, Germany and the Linz Ballet, Tanzlis, Austria. Ashley has choreographed extensively for stage and cinema with over 30 Bollywood feature films and as many stage productions to his credit. He has also been a judge on India's Dancing Superstar, a competitive dance reality show that we're all aware of on Star Plus. So let us put our hands together for Ashley Lobo. Hello, Mr. Lobo. It's such a pleasure to have you here on this platform to discuss about this wonderful topic where dance was, is, and can go in India. And with your career spanning more than 3 decades, you're absolutely the right person to take our viewers who are dancers and some of them who might not be dancers to understand this dance scenario. And that would be vis-a-vis your career in dance with your experience. So just take us through a little bit about your journey. How did it begin and what made you take up dance?
Thanks, Anuna, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I think with dance, I didn't choose dance. I think there's a saying, I think Martha Graham said that. I think she said, you don't choose dance, dance chooses you. And I think that's exactly what happened with me. I think I tried everything I could possibly do to get away from dance. I discovered dance very young at 15. Old by international standards, but young by Indian standards for international dance. And I chanced on that purely by accident. I came back from boarding school, and my mother was she was an opera singer, and she was also a musical theatre director. And she was doing a musical theatre piece for charity, and she had Salome Roy Kapoor as the choreographer. And she told Salome, my son's back from boarding school, he's been here, he'll be here for 6 months, I'm going to keep him out of trouble, see if you can get him involved in this amateur production, and keep him dancing, so that at least he's doing something productive. And that's how I started. And then from there, I did that production, which went on to do like almost 100 performances. We used to do performances over the weekend. And we used to get paid like 50 or 100 rupees after each performance. So yeah, and so we did that. And then I think Carla Singh and Shamak, who were both doing Grease, Shamak was dancing in it and Carla was choreographing. They came and saw it, and then Carla asked me if I would like to join their cast of Grease. And then that's how I started. And then at age 21, I decided that, I think I need to do this professionally. So I decided to go to and train professionally. And
wow,
then from there,
that's absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely. Like they say that when something is meant to happen, and when we really it's supposed to, we discover it or dance discovers you, or you discover dance. Either way, it is beneficial for all dancers across the world, and certainly for all of us that you chose this platform to express yourself. So over the last, so many years that you've been in this field, would you say that you notice changes? Would you say that there are differences that you've seen emerge, especially over the last 15 or 20 years?
I think when I chose dance, there was only Doordarshan at the time in India, so we weren't exposed. Yeah, so we weren't exposed to any international dance. So it was an extremely difficult decision for me, for a young 21-year-old, to choose that path. Because even now, even in the Western world, in the international world, dance is not fully seen as a profession. It's seen as something that you do as a hobby. It's not seen as something that you could follow through as a career. So for me, it was very different then, because we didn't have the exposure. Today you have the internet, so there's a lot of stuff coming in. So dancers out here can see what's happening in the international world. And of course, we already have the homegrown classical industry and the folk dance industry and the Bollywood industry, which is very, very well entrenched. But I think for me, I was more into the international dance scene because my mother was an opera singer, so it's self-explanatory. For me, there was nothing. But today it's changed dramatically, especially in the last 20 years. I think it started, with the opening of the market, and when there were like 100 channels. When I left, there was just one channel, Doordarshan. When I came back to India in '94, I found there was 100 channels in here. There was NTV and Channel V, and there was a whole heap of international exposure to the art. And I think since then, this particular area of dance has suddenly started to get a lot of exposure and climb and change and evolve in the country, because the dancers out here are seeing the possibility, and they're also getting the information. So I think over the last 20 years, it's changed even more because of reality shows that have come in. I mean, reality shows have their pluses and their minuses. The pluses are that it's actually put dance on the map, which makes it, people of all kinds of dance come there and they show their stuff. That's the plus. The minus is that what goes on to reality is only what is available. And in terms of international dance, we're probably about 30 years behind the actual scene. So then whatever becomes popular, and so something that actually requires the technique or the growth or the long-term development of the dancer, that's not put so much into profile. So it's fast, and yet it's slowing it down. So like everything has a plus and a minus, but I'm grateful for the fact that at least dance has been given center stage. But it's changed dramatically. I started DanceWorks 20 years ago, and when I came to India 20 years ago in Delhi, there was a hoarding on Lajpat Nagar which just said, learn Casio and learn Western dance. And since then, I think dance has come a long way. We had a couple of ballet schools like Tushna's in Bombay, and maybe the Russian Center in Delhi. But that was probably 50, 100 students in a country of 1 billion. So, but then now, today, I know that after I set up DanceWorks, there's over 100 schools coming out of Delhi. A lot of them students of ours who opened their own schools. So I know, and they've traveled abroad, studied, come back. A lot of dancers from here are now directors overseas in companies, stuff like that. So I think it's changed dramatically. Also, Bollywood has changed in that particular segment of movement. You can see it changing. Like the most recent one was, I think last year they released a film called Ye Ballet. And 20 years ago I said that, there will be an Indian film on ballet. And to the dot, to 20 years, Ye Ballet came out. And Ye Ballet is like two boys, who are from the streets, came from slightly poorer backgrounds, who went on to go out there and make it, really make it. Both of them got scholarships at the Oregon Ballet, and that was the film. So before that, there was ABCD. And if I go back to the ages of where international dance was placed, about 40 years ago, the icon for international dance would probably have been Jeetu Ji. So it's changed dramatically from Jeetu Ji to, in the international arena, to Ye Ballet, where there's two boys who are doing ballet, classical ballet. And it's kind of good, because I feel in India, every country in the world has their classical style put out there, they have their folk style put out there, and then they have their commercial, like we have Bollywood, put out there. But every country in the world also has a global language like a ballet or a contemporary company to represent them on the global front. And India has never had it. So just the fact, we still don't have a ballet company. I mean, with me starting Navdhara, that was one of the steps to try and have a Western technical based contemporary company to go abroad. And we did that, and like luckily for us, about 3 years ago, the ICCR supported that, so that was a big change. And that started to happen. but I think we've got a long way to go going forward. Anona, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly.
Yeah, okay, now I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Alright. So just today in the papers, there's a photograph of this young girl who is about 16 from Brazil, who doesn't have, she's born without arms, and she's been learning ballet and she's performing it because there's a lot of great tenderness. So there's a photograph with her with two other dancers who are fully abled, and she's somebody who doesn't have arms, but her mother put her into ballet school because she wanted to realize her dreams. And it feels absolutely amazing that I think when one has that grit and the determination, one sort of pushes oneself. What were your, when you went abroad and when you came back and when you saw India the way we were at that point in relation to dance compared to what we are today? What were some of those feelings that you went through? I mean,
I think when I first came back to India,
at the same time, I think it's inspiring for our artists, so that's the reason. Yeah.
I think when I left India, it was very, very scary for me because you have to understand at that time there was only Doordarshan. So taking up dance anyway is an iffy decision for a young person. But then coming out of India with that kind of background, there was no chance, which is why I went to Australia to study and create a dance career for myself out there, which I did, working on TV and stage in Australia. But I think at the age of 21, I think the biggest fear for me was always, what if I don't make it? And if I don't make it, because it's such an upstream swim, it's not, you're not swimming downstream, you're swimming upstream. So it was, what if I don't make it? You have to remember my father was in the army, and we came from a very humble beginning. So for me, them even loaning me the $10,000 to go out there and start up that process, I promised them I'd pay them back in a year, was tough. Because I thought that if I cannot make it, and then do I use up my parents' hard-earned money like that? Because they've stayed away from home for so long just to give us that money, and to get that money into the house, and then I'd use that to go and do something that doesn't succeed. So it was a lot of pressure for me as a young 21-year-old, and I think somewhere in there in my mind, I always thought that one day I should come back to India, and maybe no kid should ever have to go through the struggle of that thought process. If they're gifted with dance, there should be enough out here for them to at least test it out, try it out, and then if that's who they are, then they should be able to do it. So I think that was one. And I think in '94, when I came back for a holiday, I was swamped with work. I did about 4 musicals in that 1 year. I came down for 3 months, and I ended up extending for the whole year because I just got so much work. And I just thought to myself that, this is the place to be. But while I was doing the musicals, I would choreograph something, at a certain level. And then by the time I put it on stage, the level of choreography would drop down there because the dancers weren't trained. So I had to keep scaling down the choreography. When I remember flying out of Mumbai airport, and I had my head against the window. That time we used to fly Air India to Singapore and Singapore to Brisbane. And I had my head against the window, and I was thinking, you tend to go over, the whole year that you've spent out there. And I was just thinking to myself, because the newspapers had written beautifully about my work. And I was just thinking to myself, Ashley, you're such a fraud. I mean, the work, you were seeing that, and you delivered that, and they're all thinking it's genius. And I was thinking, you're such a fraud. Now, that time, I thought, I definitely need to come back. And I definitely need to start an institution where we can train dancers so that, the actual level of dance can go to where it has to go. And that was where the dream was born. I think those two kind of got me thinking that, I need to do this. And since then, I devoted my life when I came back in '98 to just doing that, just education, proper international dance education. Because before that, there were mainly dance schools teaching choreography and dance steps, but they weren't teaching dance. For me, dance is understanding of the physiology, the possibilities of the body, as well as the choreography, not just the choreography. So for me, breaking it down, creating a proper syllabus, just like I did overseas, was important. And I think that's essentially the change. Earlier, international dance was just seen as you learn up a routine and you just regurgitate it, Today, international dance in India is slightly different. You actually have to train. You understand the spine of international dance. It's classical ballet, and people are much more aware. And I think that's been, the endeavor of me and many other people who are striving to do this.
You just said about that this is what you are going to deliver and you have delivered this. But I think that that's what happens when we often have to make the best of the available resources and also sort of be around, because sometimes we work depending on the perceptions of people. Actually, not sometimes, most of the times. So what the other person perceives, what do people perceive, and there is a sort of a framework already set, right? So if one deviates too much from it, then till the world is prepared, or till the people around are prepared to accept it, I think you bid your time as well, and then came back with a bang to have the variety of genres that you teach at DanceWorks. And so what are the various styles that you do at DanceWorks? And when you set it up, what was it that was there behind on your mind, and what did you want to take forward?
For me, I think it was always about how do I set up a base for a dancer so that they can travel anywhere in the world and continue their education and get a professional career in it. So it was always syllabus based. And for me, when I first came to India, we were so far away from understanding syllabus based dance, international dance. Like I said, it was Western dance and Casio. So to shift the mindset from that to actually learning it like a science, like anything else, I thought jazz would be the easiest one, because jazz is fun, but it's also technical. So I needed to align with them, like you said, with jazz, which is a popular language. It's fun, you can use popular songs, but it's very, very clearly technical. You have to understand the physiology, and the whole syllabus is broken down into process. So I used jazz, and then later I brought in classical ballet, because anywhere in the world, classical ballet is the central medium from which any dancer is born. Any dancer that is hired into any company in the world, they have to, most of them will demand a strong classical technique. So then I brought in ballet, and then I went into contemporary, which is a destructuring style, because every country in the world has a contemporary company. In fact, Israel, for example, it's a dot of a country, but it dominates the contemporary dance scene in the world. And I was lucky enough to interact with the people in Israel, because my mentor is actually from Israel. He's the director of the Susan Dalal Center. And I immediately understood that, you know, if a small country like Israel can create like the top 3-4 choreographers that export their work out of the world, why can't India with 1.2 billion? There's not a dearth of talent. We are extremely gifted. I think there's just the missing ability to take that gift and give it a channel and a direction and a proper training, or at least give it a foundation from which it can spring. And that is when I started like the Going Home project, which was to give full scholarship to 15 students, out of which those 2 kids on which Ye Ballet was based came out of. But I think for me going forward, I think it's all about where dance is going to go. Like if today Ye Ballet has come out, children, this generation, like your children or my children or our grandchildren, they will see international dance very differently in this country, because they are much more networked. They're getting a lot more information. So their expectation and what they're going to demand from a dance school, or what they're going to demand on stage or on screen, is going to be equivalent internationally to whatever's out there. So if you're someone who's into dance and you're into international dance in that particular genre, then the way to go, I would suggest, would be like train yourself professionally. Because if you train yourself professionally, you're immediately in the top 5%, because nobody trains themselves professionally. Everyone just goes to a dance class and learns steps. So if you train yourself professionally, get a good strong classical base, get a good commercial technical base like jazz, and then get 1 or 2 like street or hip hop or funk, or get something to mix that up, and contemporary, you have a nice portfolio from where to spring and get work, whether it's in India or overseas. Because 15 years down the track, the demand for that particular genre of dance is going to climb, but the supply is remaining very, very small, because the people today are not seeing where it's going to go. They are just following where it's at and what they're seeing on a TV. But what you're seeing on a TV is only where it's at. It's not where it's going to go. Because the next generation is not going to buy what we see on TV today. They're going to buy what they're seeing on internet today. They'll expect that on TV 10 years from now. So I think it's a little bit about vision. I think young dancers today need to be able to see where it's going to go and then prepare themselves for that.
What would you say as far as, you know, when a dancer is training, or when a dancer wants to sort of sustain and be there? I think that's one of the important parts, is having this desire and this ability to keep bouncing back despite whatever highs and lows that person goes through. And I think that's very true for all artists, because we are also more emotional, and then we get swayed, and that's also because then we are expressing, right? So what would you say are, a couple of key things that a dancer must definitely have within their command, or definitely keep it, like a mantra for himself or herself, that okay, this is something that I need to do if I need to excel. I talk about excelling because we should all aim at excelling, then this is a different story, but the goal has to be to excel, right? So
I think for me, it's about keeping your passion alive. And the easiest way to keep your passion alive is don't focus so much on the reward when you're in something like this as much as on the learning. Because if your language is learning, then you don't have the up and downs, Whereas you're focused on the reward, then if you go that much and you don't get the reward, then you're going to feel like bad, you know what I mean? So it's going to be a very, very tumultuous journey emotionally if as an artist you're thinking of, how many people have recognized me, how much money am I making? It's a very, very tumultuous journey. But if you're focusing on every day, what can I learn new about my craft? What can I learn new about my craft? It keeps you on a positive, constant upswing because you're constantly building yourself. So then tomorrow, even if you have a financial low or recognition low, it's not relevant because you're already filled with who you are, because you've learned something in your movement about physiology or about creativity, metaphysical, physical, about yourself and about your craft. And so I think getting passionate about your craft and getting to the bottom of your craft, I think would be the way to go. If you focus on the receivables out of it, chances are at some point you'll blow up, because it is a marathon. It's not to go to those levels of excellence or greatness that you talk about. It's not going to happen in 3 or 4 years unless you're, it can happen if you're a genius, but it takes about 8-10 years by the time, because it's a craft. It's a finely honed craft. It's like being a heart surgeon, a very highly celebrated heart surgeon. It takes you 8-10 years from the time you first start using the scalpel till it becomes a science, for you, and you become an artist with it. So I think you have to first come in with the knowing it's going to take that long, and not fool yourself into believing, and also not watching, because around you there's a lot of what I call there's a lot of quick wins. You can get a lot of quick wins, like microwaved wins. You go out there and do a studio, and then you have 50 people following you, and they're all saying, "Wow, you're an amazing dancer." But that for me is a quick win. That's not going to build you into a recognized artist. If you want to be a recognized artist, then you've got to be really, really curious and really, really inquisitive, and constantly seeking to understand your craft. And that takes time. And that means you've got to expose yourself to various artists. And I'm going to use a line which my mentor, Yair Vaudi, told me when I was creating my second contemporary work. He said to me, actually do something where you know you're going to fail. And if you know you're going to fail, that's going to stretch you. And dance is just about that. It's about challenging what you know. So the way he explained it to me is, he says, if you're doing A, your next piece shouldn't be B. If you're doing A, your next piece should be lamppost. The next piece should be pussycat. It's so varying that what happens is you're forced to decentralize any memory, any thought you have of your program, and relearn a whole new world. And in that, you're adding value to yourself as an artist. And that's what I'd say. It's just stay inquisitive, stay curious, and stay like really simple. Be the stupid guy in the room who wants to absorb everything.
I think that's I think simplicity and humility. I think two things. I think if they are together, then that helps to exactly what you said. Be curious and keep learning, and then that desire to sort of push self beyond the comfort zone that we all like to be in. When in 2006, when I was doing my first PhD, it was in dance in the urban culture and sociology, and there was something that I met a lot of dancers, nationally, event organizers, journalists, and at that point, the economic viability of being a dancer, most people said that, I'm going to dance, and especially for the women, it was about I dance, and once I get married, I don't know whether I dance or I don't dance. In majority cases, that one doesn't. And very few men, today we have many more men who are dancing than what it used to be before. During your times, you must, yeah, thank God. And so, an economic criteria they always said was, I don't know whether it will be that great. What do you think today? Do you think it has changed from, say, even 2006 to today? Do you think that professionally, in terms of the viability, do you think it has made a difference? See, everything needs to get better, But do you think that it has moved towards the more positive? Let's put it that way.
I think it's changed in some segments of dance. In some segments of dance, like I think if there is a family of 10 families, like earlier, like let's say 10 families would probably send their children only to Indian classical because that's what they had. You know what I mean? If they had to choose dance. But today there's a much bigger smorgasbord. So automatically, in a sense, some segments, their possibility of how many students can come to their institutions, that has reduced, right? Having said that, in the other side, there's also a lot of stuff that is not fully vetted. So there's a lot of chaos also, in that area. So I think we are in a transitionary phase. It has definitely grown. I think if in any segment of dance that you're in, I come back to that if you are curious about conquering your craft, you will always know there will be something about what you do that will draw students to you. Because it has nothing to do with the style itself, it has to do with how you see it. So I think if you see, like for example, like when I came to India 20 years ago, like I said, there was only Casio and Western dance. So if I used to ask people like, okay, I'm going to teach you jazz, I used to have people who come to the studio, the big bodybuilder types, and they'd say like, ye judge kya hota hai? So I come from that antecedent 20 years ago to today where dancers are traveling all across the world. And the transition for me out there is simply, I think, knowing what you want to do and being able to effectively communicate that and sharing that with your students through the physical system of what you're doing, and also being able to verbally explain to them that this is what we are doing and this is where we are going together. So let's get this going. And so sooner or later it starts to become a movement, even within a small institution, because they're all going towards something in that dance style. They're going on a journey of discovery together. So then that creates a certain momentum. It's like a freedom movement. You're creating a movement for your dance style. So then nothing can affect you. You only get affected when you don't have that, when you're just going through the process of just training and doing and training and doing, but you're not really coming in to evolve or change yourself and your understanding of it. I don't know if I've been able to answer.
Certainly you have. And that's very interesting. I mean, and I'm sure that all the people who are watching in, there's so much for us to take, because like you said, that if there is a curiosity to learn, we learn every moment and we learn from everybody. And then your vast experience really adds a lot of value to our young artists. And I won't say just dancers, because dance is an art. And so for all artists, I think these inputs become very, very valuable. Before we end this session and before I just move on to a couple of questions that we have, there was just a very nice thing that you had mentioned. That you mentioned normally, that there's a difference between whether we want to learn a dance, whether we're learning dance or whether we are learning steps. So if you will just elaborate that on that a little bit in about brief.
To me, in the international dance scene, you have a proper dance class, and then you have what we call our choreography classes. So a dance class is where a young student comes in and they learn the whole breakup of the body. So it starts with posture correction. Because the difference between amateur and professional is basically half an inch. It's just that much, right? So just getting that memory in there. So that's like, so it starts off with posture correction. Then it goes on to coordination exercises. First a gentle warm up and a roll down. Then it goes into coordination exercise to show the different parts of the bodies and how they can coordinate to get to a very basic coordination skill in. Then they go into what they call isolations, because dance is a permutation and combinations of various parts of the body in different permutation and combinations. So shoulders, what are the possibilities of the shoulders? So then it breaks down to isolations. Then you do combinations, which is like off the body parts to create little phrases. Then you have what we call a dance fast, where you come down the hall, where you do like the and off of any language. Like, so any choreographer in the world would have step, 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 and they'd have a pirouette. A pirouette is a turn. So a pirouette is a the and an and an off. You need to know it anywhere in the world. So then you practice those, and then at the end you do a class which combines all of that: the posture, the coordination, the isolation, the and off, and you make it into a dance phrase, and then you express that. So that is a dance class. A choreography class is where one person has already done the combination of that and is just teaching you the dance steps for the day, with no teaching of the breakup of the process of how to understand the physiology of the body. So you don't really understand the physiology of the body or the possibilities or the metaphysiology of the body, you only learn the made up combination that artist has made. So you're just following something. You can't create something of your own because you're limited with what you're given, and you're not given the tools to create either in that class like that. And overseas we have both classes. You have like what we call a dance class, and you have what we call a choreography class. So they're two separate. But in India, sometimes a lot of choreography classes are mistaken for dance classes, and that's where I say we are like 20 years behind, and it's at least in the international segment. In the Indian classical space, they do it all, and I have the hugest respect. I'm constantly studying them like a hawk to see what I can borrow and steal from there and put into the Western format. Because I believe the Western format is like 2,000 years behind the Indian classical format. You know what I mean? So, you'll never finish learning. There's so much information out there, you know.
And even as an Indian classical and folk dancer, I'm learning so much from you today. There's just so much that you set my mind thinking in my choreography or in the way that I approach my students. And thank you. It's been a very, very enriching session for me personally, and I'm sure it's been for the viewers. Thank you, Ashley. But before we end, viewers, you can be ready that we are going to have our Jazz Funk workshop, which is going to start in another 5 minutes. Again, the instructor is Ria Quatra from DanceWorks Performing Arts Academy. And but before we move on to that workshop, we'll just take a question or two, Ashley, very quickly. Yeah. So we have a question from Nuha saying, can you tell us how a young dancer can convince their families to allow them to pursue dance as a career? Tough one, that, but for you.
I think you yourself need to be convinced first, because I believe that if you're convinced, you can convince anyone. If you yourself are in flux, and that convincing will happen once you're sure of yourself that, yeah, this is what I want to do. And to be sure, you need to really research it. You need to know what you're going after, and do all the research that you need to with dance universities abroad, understand the possibilities of it, what risks you have to take, and put that all down so that you can actually put those thoughts together, so that when you're presenting that to your parents, they see that you know what you're talking about and you're not just going on a whim or fancy. If they see, I think most parents will go from a notion of trust. They just want you to be happy and successful. So if they know that you know what you're doing, they'll be cool, right? So it's your onus to prove to them that you know what you're doing when you're choosing that as a career. That would be my thought.
Wonderful. So I mean that preparedness for the dancer who wants to dance and take it forward, that needs to be reflected by him or her. We'll just take another last question by Diksha Punjabi. How can a complete non-dancer initiate oneself into the art and get over the initial apprehension?
Okay. I think dance is an extremely personal art. Dance is extremely, extremely personal. And I think the key to doing dance is to understand that dance is about you. It's not about somebody else. And it should always be about you. It should never be about somebody else. It's about your way of expressing. And even in performance, you're expressing, but you're expressing and sharing. You're not expressing for them or to them. You're expressing and you're sharing. So it's always about you. Also, if you do a dance class, I believe there's two things that I'd say. When you do a dance class, you know, everyone in the dance class out there is thinking exactly. Divya, is that Divya? Divya Punjabi? What's her name? Divya.
Diksha Punjabi.
Diksha, everyone in the class who's standing there, so this person is thinking, oh my god, everyone's looking at me. This person saying, oh my god, everyone's looking at me. This person saying, and nobody's looking at anybody, because everyone's thinking everyone's looking at me, right? So you've got to understand what's going on with the guy next door and the guy next door. So don't feel shy. Just get into the class. The third thing I'd say to you is that in any classroom, in any kind of dancers, there's two types of dancers. There's a bolter, like horses. There are bolters and steers. There's a horse that goes out really fast and slows down. And there's a horse that starts off slow and speeds up at the end. So when you come into a class, don't evaluate. If you're a bolter, if you're a steer, and you're someone who's slow off the block, you may start to compare yourself against a steer who's fast off the block, and you'll just blow yourself out. So don't do that. So don't look sideways again. So I'm going to tell you what happened with me in Australia. Do we have 2 minutes?
Yeah, of course. Please carry on.
Okay, so I'm going to, when I went to Australia, I was like, I'd done 6 months of ballet, right? At age 20, I'd done 6 months of ballet, and everybody else in the class had 14 years of ballet. So I was like trailing them by 13 and a half years. And so I used to go down the hall in the dance pass, and there used to be two girls at the end of the hall who used to wait there because when I used to come down, I looked like an elephant flying down a corridor. So I was their Indian entertainment, right? So in the beginning of in the first couple of weeks, I used to go down and do that, and then after a while, they used to laugh at me, and then I felt really conscious. So what I started to do was I would do the main class and I would do the bar class, but I would never come down the hall because I knew those two would be waiting there, to make fun of me. So I stopped doing that. And then the teacher came up to me and she said to me, why aren't you doing this, Ashley? You've left your country, you've come here to study, you're spending so much time and energy. This is your dream, why aren't you doing it? So I said to her, I'm not feeling very confident. And then she said to me, sir, I know why you're not doing it. It's because of those two girls. And she said, here's what I'm going to say to you. She said, those two girls, you'll never see them another 2 years from now. You'll never see them in your life again. Now, are you going to sacrifice your dream for two people you're never going to see in your life again? Your whole life you're going to give up for two people. Is it really worth it? And then she said to me, focus on the mirror. In the dance studio, we have a mirror, so you can see yourself. Focus on the music, and just focus on me as your teacher. And that's exactly what I did, and that's what I teach every dancer to this day. Like, race with yourself, be focused on what you have, don't look sideways, because every time you look sideways, either you're going to roll over with arrogance, or you're going to roll over and fail with low self-esteem. So don't look sideways, just run your own race. You're a horse of your own kind. Just go in there. Besides, every horse is thinking the same thing. So you have nothing to worry about. Nobody's thinking what you look like, And in online, it's actually quite easy. Actually, online is a great option because online you can just switch off your camera when you're getting too conscious. And when you're confident, you've learned to step up, then you can put on the camera and show off. You know what I mean? And you can slowly build your confidence. So I'd say, there are many ways. Get to a nice dance school and just start talking to the director there. I'm sure they'll help you figure out how to overcome that.
Right. Thank you so much. That was an absolutely fantastic answer. And Diksha, hang in. There's in the next workshop, Jazz Funk workshop, we also have some surprises from Dancers Performing Arts Academy. And so hang in there and watch the next workshop, which will help you break some of your inhibitions as well. So thank you, Ashley, for being a part of this so interesting conversation. And I love this bolter and stair. I have been describing the same meaning to my students, but I love the headings and I'm going to use them from now on. And I think each of us will be able to identify for ourselves whether we each are either a bolter or a stair, but which means in both ways we can actually be amazingly successful in our lives in either or. So thank you very much for being a part of this. Anything else that you would like to add?
Thanks, Anurag, so much for having me. I'd just like to add that bolter stair example was given to me by my mentor. So I wish I could take credit for it, but I'm not that smart. But my mentor explained it to me like that. He said, when you're raising a company, just make sure with your students and with your dancers, there are different types. So you must understand each one and treat them separately. So,
but you are the medium who is taking it forward for the mentor. So that's how his words, his, right? Words are carried forward. So without you being the medium to do that, we would all actually be enriched a little less. So thank you for it all the same.